Hello everyone, you join us in the week that Phoebe Bridgers was snubbed at the Grammys, and the weekend that the Eurovision movie received more Oscar nominations than Christopher Nolan. It's episode 8, I'm Max Phillips.
I'm Nathan Little, and I'm confused by all of this.
I'm Alex Maxwell, and today we're doing superheroes.
This is the most confusing intro so far.
I'd like
I
to
just
point
wanted
out
to talk
to the
about
audience that Max did not pre-warn us about anything
Nope.
he just said.
I thought it would be funnier.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah,
And here we
well,
are.
I just wanted to get Alex's reaction because I know that you hadn't paid attention to any of the news.
No.
And, you know, I'm
No.
upset about it.
That's
So,
okay.
I mean, I'm not
It's
really
alright.
upset.
Are you Elton John upset or just regular person upset?
Yeah, I'm that level of upset. No,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of deserved winners got it. Megan Thee Stallion definitely deserved for Savage. Cause it's
Can you
banger.
believe they gave an award to a horse?
And, you know, she
A
should have got at least
horse!
one, is what I'm saying. I'm moving over the
In an
horse
award
thing.
ceremony!
Yeah, I got it. It just made me sad. So yeah, completely off topic. But the Oscar nominations came out this week. Did anyone see any
I
of that?
did have a look.
Yeah.
I haven't
did
seen
not.
many of them.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
problem with 2020.
Because they don't want to release them because they're not going to get the box office sales.
Yeah, and being in the UK as well, it's an absolute bitch to watch. I'm trying to watch Nomadland, which I've got. I use not sponsored Surfshark VPN, and I've changed my location to America so I can get Hulu, where I can watch
Max.
Nomadland.
That's a
But-
crime.
No, it's not. It's literally legal. and it won't let me sign up for an account because you need to give an American credit card to sign up, which I obviously don't have. So now I literally got no way of watching the Oscar favorite for Best Picture this year. I've seen a lot of the others, but I'm upset that I can't see not literally the film, the favorite, but I'm upset I can't see
You
the
could
favorite.
watch that if you wanted to, though. I'm
I
sure there are
could,
legal
and I
ways.
really like Yorgos, but I didn't vibe with the favourite as much as I hoped I would. So maybe I won't ever watch it.
Wait, so you have
again.
watched it?
No, Nathan's talking about a film called The Favourite.
The favourite.
Got it.
The one about Queen.
I think she's a fictional queen.
It-
Queen Olivia Colman.
Yeah. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the. Oh no, I was too late. We're doing a podcast
Why is
No,
that still funny every week?
because it's like a week between it. Wait, hang on. So what film got more nominations than who?
Eurovision got more than Christopher Nolan specifically.
I did not know that until you said it, and now I'm
Yeah, but
very
how many did they
confused.
get? Because I can't see
Eurovision
any.
got one for Best Song, Best Original Song. And
Right.
Christopher Nolan didn't get a directing
That's
nod
kind
for
of
Tenet.
cheating.
Tenet did get two nominations, but they were the very predictable ones. I think it was sound and visual effects, the ones you'd expect, but nothing for directing, which it
The way
deserved,
the way you framed that was that the Eurovision film got like loads, but they got one, which
Yeah.
is just one more than Christopher Nolan,
That's still
whose
true.
Which is
film got
still
Oscar
true.
nominations.
That is
I
what you call
guess.
a factual statement. And listen, I'm not
Yeah.
here for Eurovision slander. I actually had fun with that movie. I don't care what anyone says, which is a good segue to talk about
I was gonna
today's
say.
topic, because we're talking about superhero movies,
I'm just gonna stand up. I'm wearing a Superman
Alex,
shirt.
which he reliably informed us at the start of this podcast he got in 2007 and seemingly hasn't grown.
Yeah. No, it's kind of misshapen, I think, because you can't tumble dry it, which is annoying. So you just hang it up wet. So I think it's just slowly being pulled closer to the earth over the years.
Eventually, the Superman
each
body
wash.
is actually going to be the size of your body. It's so stretched.
Yeah,
Superman
exactly.
will be
It doesn't have far to
Slender Man.
go. Slender.
So, on topic, boys, on topic. So,
Okay, superheroes.
superheroes. Now, here's the thing about talking about superhero in general. I think I am gonna be quite defensive because I enjoy them, but I also acknowledge that there's certain types of superhero movies that I actually hate, like the DC universe. I don't vibe with any of it. I watched the Snyder Cut last night. If anyone else watched it,
Was a
the only
live
thing I know
stream
about it
of his
was-
circumcision.
oh my
No?
god,
That's-
no, that's the
Nobody?
lowest tone that we could
Audience-
have ever got on this
Audience out
podcast.
there. Oh, we could
Oh
get
my
lower than
God.
that, but we weren't.
We're not
So
going
the Snyder
to.
Cut. Tell us how you felt about it.
It was in 4x3, wasn't it?
Yeah, it says at the start. It said at the start. This thing comes up, and it's like to preserve Zack Snyder's vision of how he thought the film should be. We put it in 4.
Wait, so it's in 4x3.
Yeah.
What?
It's so shit, man.
What
It's so
purpose does that
shit.
have?
I don't know. It didn't seem to have any for me. I saw someone put a tweet online that said it's because Zack Snyder couldn't stop waving at Batman whilst on screen, so they had to cut him out of it.
Fuck's
But,
sake.
yeah, listen, the first one sucks. Like the original cut, it really is bad. This one
Yeah.
does marginally improve it. It makes it a little more, fucking coherent. But it's still Justice League. Like, it's really boring and disgusting looking. I hate the way that these DC movies look. They're just gross.
Do you know, it actually kind of ties
That's
into
where I
last week
disagree.
actually quite well, because you can't, like, we were talking about how editing kind of formats a story. At the same time, you can't just recut an entire film hoping it's going to be better than the original one, because a lot of the time that stuff is like story, and you can't just make something better in the edit.
Yeah, I think with this one,
No.
it's a case of it's a director's cut. So
Yeah.
Zack Snyder had to step out of Justice League the first time they were filming it for like a family emergency type thing. And Joss Whedon took over the rest of it, including post-production. And then the studio intervened big time, like they always do with superhero movies. And it just became this horrible mess of a film. And then fans started demanding to hear to see what Snyder would have done with his original vision. And in quite a cool thing that actually happened with HBO came along and gave him the money to do it, and it's quite cool that it happened, but it doesn't take away from the fact that they've made a bad film slightly better, but it's still bad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, we talked about this before. I haven't watched any of the DC films, I don't think.
You've
You
seen
would've watched-
Suicide Squad.
Wait, hold
Yeah,
on.
I saw Suicide Squad.
I mean, if you count, are you counting Christopher Nolan's Batman?
No.
Okay,
no.
right,
DC
that's fine
Universe is
then.
what I'm
No.
talking about.
Actual,
No,
it's just, okay.
The
right.
DC...
I don't
Yeah.
understand how it
DC
works.
DCU.
Their cinematic universe,
Yeah.
when they started to try and follow the Marvel formula.
So
Mhm.
what was Batman?
Essentially.
It was just a character,
It was a
Batman,
DC
yeah.
film, like a
but not
a
the
film about a
cinematic
DC
universe.
character.
Yeah, so like you
Yeah.
remember like the original Spider-Man films with Tobey Maguire, they
Mm.
were Sony films, they weren't Marvel films.
Oh, those
Whereas
two
these-
good Spider-Man films?
Slander.
You mean 2 and 3?
Ah.
Get it.
No.
No, listen, Spider-Man
mean,
3 does
I-
suck, but I do love it.
Yeah. I quite like the look of the DCU films, though. Like, we had that conversation a couple weeks back. I like it. I think it's very... It's out there, and it's a superhero film. But I haven't watched the films, so...
For
they could
audio
just-
listeners, I'm visibly disgusted.
He is. I can confirm.
I
He
haven't
moved
seen,
away from his microphone.
I haven't seen any of these, so I'm just gonna look it up on Google real quick and
They're
see
really
what they
dark
look
and
like.
oversaturated and broody, and it's cringy, man. It's just not for me.
That's okay.
Which,
Batman
dark,
looks-
oversaturated, and moody is Alex
Batman
all
looks
over again.
absolutely hench though.
Yeah, that's Ben Affleck.
Good for him.
Hmm.
Hey, listen, I like Ben Affleck.
I like Ben Affleck.
And I don't think it's really possible to make Batman cool. I love the Dark Knight trilogy, man. I really, really love it. And I love Christian Bale as Batman.
It's a little bit ridiculous, though.
Yeah, and the suit as well. He's never gonna. Even as a kid, I never thought Batman was that cool.
No.
Which is funny because I think like Thor is cool, and he's not exactly, the most badass looking guy. But I don't know. I there's something about Batman that is super like lame.
Yeah.
It's just a rich bloke in a bat suit.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a superpower at all. It's just rich.
Money!
His superpower is he's a hedge fund kid.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
go on.
There are like I really enjoyed the Christopher Nolan Batman films,
Mm-hmm.
but like when you kind of take a step back and you think, what's the voice for?
What's that
voice about?
Multiple characters in that trilogy.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I heard a story about that about kind of Christian Bale was kind of going through lines with his partner and kind of threw this voice in, and she was like, "Don't do that in the audition." And he came back having done it, and he was like, I did the voice. I couldn't help it, and I did it. And his partner was like, "You're an idiot. You've thrown this away." And they called him, and they were like, "Hey, you got the role." And then he had to do the voice.
Yeah,
but like,
I like to believe that's true.
I'm Batman. What's that about? I guess he's got to disguise his voice as well. As like, it's just conversing with someone. But like, hey, you sound a lot like Bruce Wayne. No, I don't.
It's not like he's got like a Morgan Freeman distinctive voice. No, like he's just got a normal white guy.
But the thing
voice.
is, as well, if you went, "Hey, I'm Batman," they wouldn't really work the same, would it? So,
who are you? I'm Bruce Wayne. I'm Batman. Please don't listen to what I just said. Or he's just like he's in costume, and someone just like on the other side of the street talking to someone else is like, "Hey, Bruce!" Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not.
Why are you a caveman?
Bruce Wayne says what? Voice. Bruce Wayne. I can't say it. It's such a tongue twister. Bruce Wayne says what? And he's like, "What?" Hey, no.
That really would have taken away the emotion from that scene with Gary Oldman at the end of The Dark Knight Rises. Where he's like, where he says something along the lines of like, "For someone that just does something like give a coat to a young boy." That bit. Yeah, he's like really supposed to be emotional, but he's still doing the voice. If Gary Oldman just went, "Bruce Wayne says what?"
What?
I honestly didn't expect this much Batman voice to come up.
No.
Well, I suppose it's better than Batman versus Superman Batman voice, isn't it?
Yeah.
I haven't watched the film.
What's
I just
that Batman
know. He has
voice?
like a robot voice or something, doesn't he? He has like a voice changer in the suit.
It's sort of. It's like.
That makes more sense, though.
But
it makes more sense, even if it's worse.
But it's based on the Christian Bale voice, so it's still like.
Maybe Ben Affleck just couldn't do the voice, and they're like, "We've got to find a way to do it."
They've essentially motivated that voice as like he needs to disguise the voice, and they're like, "Hey, like, we love the style, but that's ridiculous."
Like, could you imagine if DC tried to bring in a Bane character now that didn't sound like this?
That's true, but that was also like kind of that.
Especially, did you see it in the cinema? Because it was loud, like loud. It would be like someone's talking at this volume. "Hey, Ben, how you doing?" "I'm doing really well." Not that that's like classic Bane dialogue.
That's from the film.
Doing really well. Thank you for asking. Okay, that's too many impressions for one podcast.
We move on to some more in-depth discussion.
Yeah, because it does have a lot of goofing, talking about spoofable movies. Talking about superhero movies, it requires a lot of goofing on them because they are campy and ridiculous and silly.
I was going to say, that's how it started.
Yeah, it's supposed to be quite goofy. I mean, I'll preface this by saying I've only watched one Marvel Cinematic Universe film. I've only just learned what that means.
One?
one.
How have you
One?
avoided the rest, in fairness?
Because again, you guys know I'm not interested in superhero films.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Which
So I
one?
just
Which one?
Age of
Iron
Ultron.
Man? Oh.
What the fuck?
Eh?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and it wasn't
Of all
good.
the films,
What
Wait,
the
does Iron Man
hell?
count as the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Yeah.
Okay, I've
Kind
watched the
of.
first one.
I think
Okay.
they made it. I don't know if they made it with the intention, but they made it and they were like, "Hey, this works."
Okay, so I've watched that
I don't know.
and Age of Ultron.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No wonder you don't think they're good.
for the record. They got better.
Yeah. Iron Man's good. Age of
Yeah, I
Ultron.
just didn't get behind. I don't know. There's something even.
Thor Ragnarok is good.
Thor Ragnarok's great.
Yeah, well, that's-
Endgame I really enjoyed. Infinity
Guardians
War I
of the
thought was
Galaxy.
better. Guardians, Civil War. There's so many good ones. I love.
Now we're just listing the films.
I love the new Spider-Man. I
Mm.
really think Tom Holland is great in that role. And
And
my
he
God,
is
man,
easy on the eye.
he really is, but not as easy as Andrew Garfield was.
I was gonna say, what
No,
happened to him?
disagree.
Well, he was another Sony Spider-Man reboot,
And then it went.
and then
over,
Marvel
so-
got the rights, and then
I
Marvel
see.
briefly lost the rights, and then
Yeah.
but I think now they share them. So
There's
when
some
they made
sort of
the-
deal.
yeah, because they want to do another Venom movie. Sorry,
Again,
They
I'm gonna.
wanna
Say,
do
I
another Venom movie.
enjoyed them. I watched both. Did I? No.
There's only one.
Yeah, I was gonna say I watched it.
I watched
Um,
it twice.
No. This is my main point. I enjoyed it. I'm not watching
man,
a superhero film
Yeah.
to be like intellectually challenged.
Yeah, and that's my perspective as well, and I just happen to enjoy slightly different ones to you do. But when I think something is really bad, I get any enjoyment out of it. I know that's a bit shit, but I can't.
Well, no,
get
the
past
thing is, if
something being
it's
really
just
bad.
like, again, I can't really comment because I haven't watched an awful lot of them. But I think when story or dialogue or both is bad, that seems to be the kind of the when I talk to people who haven't liked superhero films, who do like Marvel, whatever, that seems to be the sticking point. It seems to be that the characters haven't been true to either the comics or just the story's bad or the dialogue is bad.
Yeah. Well,
So you
Nathan,
can't
I am
really help
intrigued
that.
because it was your suggestion to do superhero movies, so I assumed you'd seen more than two.
Right.
But I'm intrigued as to what your stance is on them and why you wanted to do a podcast on it. Because
So
obviously,
the reason
I'm
that I
like,
said it,
big Marvel
well, I
fan.
think because you had mentioned it, and I said that would be a good one because you guys have watched them. I haven't watched them. I don't have strong opinions on not liking them. I just don't watch them because I don't particularly find. I don't really find it that interesting a lot of the time, and this is a very
Mhm.
generalized thing, and I might just trigger a lot of people by saying this, but like the whole end of the world, end of the city, something clamor, like this massive event is about to happen.
Yeah.
I don't buy it, and it's not like kind of like a film snobby thing. It's like I don't particularly care for that. I kind of it just
And there's
doesn't
only
grab
so
me
many
as a
times you can
story.
see the same thing.
Exactly, and then it's
right?
kind of like, well, if the end of the world's coming, it's
Again.
either one, they're giving up with the series because unless you make prequels, you can't do anything after the world ends, so they're
Yeah.
going to save the day. Or, I know what happens, like in
At
Endgame,
what
they
cost?
do, yeah, that kind of thing, where like they do have some kind of difference, but I'm still like, I just don't care, to be honest.
Yeah.
The bad
Were
guy's
you,
gonna
um,
lose, even
yeah,
if the
exactly.
good guys
Yeah.
lose a bit as well.
Were you a comic book kid?
No.
Like growing up? No.
That
Alex?
surprises me.
This
Also,
is a
no.
nerd.
Well, no, I read comics, but not superhero comics. I was an avid reader of the Simpsons comic.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And
We've
Jackie
wheeled
Chan
the-
Adventures.
I was going to
which
say
I
Jackie
still
Chan was
have.
great. Did you
I have them
get
all.
the talismans as well?
I still have all of them. The price,
lad.
their worth is going up on eBay. I've been keeping an eye.
Well, like £2.
No, like if you have a full set, I think you can get like 80 quid.
Ooh.
I think I have a full set. I don't know. Don't rob me if you think I
We-
do.
we,
It's
uh,
not worth it.
We all grew up in that era where the collectible was the thing. You know, like that was a cool thing at school. You know, Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards. For me, and especially in my school where I went to, football cards, football sticker albums. They
Yeah.
were absolute shit.
Even I did that, and I don't do football.
Yeah.
It's not my thing. And I was like, stickers! I gotta have more stickers.
Mr. Bean had these like weird do you remember the Mr. Bean comic series that came out when we were kids?
Very
And he
brief.
had this thing that I don't remember what they were, maybe cards or some stickers or something, and they stunk. Like they deliberately had a horrible smell to them, and you had to collect all these different horrible smells.
Yeah,
but
I do remember
was-
that. That's like you've unlocked a memory.
Yeah, but it's this long-winded point of getting around to, I feel like our generation are the ones that are watching the Marvel movies, and we're the ones. This is obviously just theorizing, but we're the ones that are consuming this stuff, and a lot of us, like me especially, grew up reading these comics, and the reason that I love them and get so much enjoyment out of them, and don't get me wrong, there are ones I really don't like, but for the most part, I would say I enjoy them, and I know that it's shit. Like, I know it's just the same shit over and over again, but I love it, man. And the reason is because I grew up with those comics, you know? Like, there was, in my little town, there was a bookstore that was co-owned by, like, my friend's dad or something. But the owner of that, the guy that ran it, used to let me and my friends go down in the bookstore downstairs to the little comic book section and just leave us be for like an hour after school and just sit and read like comics and stuff. And that was just the best. And it was that earliest memory of like expansive imagination, because it's such a big world, the Marvel world, that I would be like creating my own comic book heroes, creating my own comic books, doing all that stuff.
100%.
So to grow up and to see that stuff put on screen at a hugely high budget and looking really fucking cool. Like, I know that they might not be great, you know, pieces of cinema, but they do look cool. And that was just like, I feel like I'm a kid again when I'm in the cinema.
Yeah, my dad calls it popcorn for the brain, or bubblegum for the brain, or something. It's just something. It's entertaining. It's flashing lights.
Yeah, I mean, like you said before, like you're not
up.
there to be intellectually stimulated. You know what you're going into.
Yeah.
But then again, like the later kind of MCU films, like Phase 4, like I'm crying at the end of it.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Well, this is the thing.
You accidentally get attached to these ridiculous characters.
Like, when I was when the Avengers movie came out, so they'd done like 3, maybe 4 maximum, if you include the Incredible Hulk movie they did, Marvel films before the Avengers thing. This was the first big event of its time where multiple film heroes were in the same story. And I was like, that came out the day after my 16th birthday, and I had like a Tumblr blog dedicated to just the Avengers film, like before it came out and stuff like that. I was so gassed, like I was so excited. I watched it like 5 times in the cinema. I remember like this is so minuscule and nothing, but it's still in my brain now. I remember Agent Coulson is a character in that film, and I put in one of my Tumblr captions like tagged him because he was in the photo, Agent Coulson. I spelt his name wrong, and so another Avengers Tumblr stan count told me that I spelt it wrong, and I deleted the account.
Oh no!
I was so upset. I was like, I am not a true fan.
Oh no!
It was
But
like devastating.
I think what I like kind of about, and it doesn't stand for everyone because it's interesting. Batman's superpower is money.
Yeah.
And then you kind of cross over into MCU, and Iron Man's superpower is essentially money.
Mhm.
But I think what's different and why it's kind of almost more accessible. I mean, as a 16-year-old, you're not like, oh yeah, I relate to this deeply damaged man. But like, Batman, his parents are killed. It's tragic. He's this billionaire. He goes on to get scared of bats and then become a bat. I don't know. Fucking who cares? But it's almost this piousness, this kind of holier than thou.
Yeah.
I am the knight. I am the protector. Blah blah blah. Iron Man.
Big words.
is a bit of a cock.
Yeah.
He's kind of
Billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
yeah.
That
But
whole
like, there's
shtick.
this front, and then we get to see
Yeah.
kind of the humanity of it, which is interesting on two fronts because you've got like Captain America is almost like the MCU version of Superman,
Yeah.
who's kind of this again kind of pure, almost too pure, and I know they are
Captain
changing
America.
that, yeah, and it is this purity that you just can't really access, and you're like, ugh. But that leads me
Yeah.
on to another point of kind of superhero genre is the kind of offshoots of that, and things like The Boys.
I'm so glad you brought it up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I'm,
that's
I'm not
again.
'cause you
Yeah,
talked
you
about
haven't
this
seen
in the
it yet.
week,
Yeah.
and I was like, I will watch it for research. And then Formula
was like
One
2
Drive to
days ago.
Survive came out, and I was like, I'm gonna watch that instead.
Yeah, I mean that's me all the time. But that show, so Iron Man's not quite an anti-hero, and then The Boys is the complete opposite of heroes.
Well, the thing is, it's not even like, I mean, it's the reason I enjoyed it so much, and I recommend it to people who do like superhero films, because it's such a swerve from
oh yeah,
anything I've ever seen before. The thing that just makes it so interesting is that not only are these characters flawed, but they are actively bad people
Yeah,
from the root. It's not even like he's a bit of a dick sometimes, or like, oh, he doesn't, I don't know what superheroes flaws are apart from just he's scared of bats. I can't think of anything else now that you said that. But it's like
he always has to use throat lozenges.
Batman, sponsored by Strepsils.
That'd be such a good sketch. He just comes back.
not working very well, but
He comes back to Alfred and he's like, my fucking throat, man.
I really like the honey and lemon ones.
That was more Big Mouth, that impression.
Ooh, I really like honey and lemon ones.
Anyway, The Boys, carry
The
on.
Boys.
The
yeah,
Boys.
the thing that, because every single character in that has flaws at various levels, and the thing that makes it sort of interesting from my perspective is that you never see that in superhero films to the point where they're actually questionable. Because when you look at like Superman, it's like he might have a flaw, but you never question that he's the good guy. And there's never this like morality kind of thing. You're like, here's the good guys on the left, here's the bad guys on the right. We know.
And when they do
why
try and introduce that, like they did in Batman vs Superman, it's sort of brushed off by the end anyway. So it's like it'll start when Man of Steel came out, and it was just like superhero movies, pwah, pwah, pwah. And then people were like audiences were like, hey, why is no one like upset that he's just destroyed an entire city? So then this is when they came around to make Batman vs Superman. Then it was like Batman was like, my main motivation is I'm upset that you've broken the city, but I'm gonna forgive you after half an hour.
But that would be
that's
an
the
interesting
thing.
film, though. Like, if halfway through he had destroyed the city and now everyone hates him,
Yeah,
like, that would be really interesting to me. Because, and it's the problem I have with superhero films. By the end of it, the good guys are still the good guys. Like, they're all, like, walking back through the sunset, like, patting each other on the back for defeating all the bad guys. Like, I know it's a generalization, and I know there is
even
deeper.
when they're the bad guys, like in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
What are we?
Oh, I've
Some
seen that
kind
one.
of
Suicide
Squad.
Yeah, no,
You've
I've
seen that one?
That's
Wow.
bad. I've seen all
Superman-
the bad superhero films.
I
Yeah.
would love Superman so much more if by the end of the film it's like, is that a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's that dick that crushed my house. Like, I would enjoy that so much more. Like,
But that's the kind
but
of
it's
thing
just
that
not there.
The Boys brings to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that I don't want to spoil a lot of it. I feel like it's quite
It's new
well
enough
known
to not do
yeah,
that.
I think it's, but like I feel like it's well enough known about some of the plot where it's like, you know, that these are kind of questionable heroes. But that
did
kind of
quotation
thing does
marks.
come into it. Yes, in quotes for the audio listeners. But that sort of thing does come into play where it's like their actions, their superhero actions, have consequences. So, like, if they destroy a city, people are pissed off with them.
Sorry, I just thought of that Vine. It's like, when will you learn that your actions have consequences? Sorry. No, but that's the thing. And I think what makes it kind of more accessible, The Boys, is, I mean, one of your main issues with superhero films, as you said, is kind of you just don't buy it. And all forms of, not all forms, but so many forms of film requires a suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
You have to kind of be like, this is a film. Let's buy it for now. And I think what The Boys does is it takes an imaginary situation and puts it into the real world. Superhero films are like, hey, superheroes are here and everything's good. But The Boys say, what would happen if superheroes actually existed? And immediately you're thrown into it. Oh yeah, it's a corporation making money off of it. There's
and they
obviously
all have,
corruption.
Like, social media accounts that they have to like
keep
up
updated.
to date. Yeah.
And like when buildings are destroyed,
That's good. I like that.
it gets massively addressed, and it's like they have to put out a press release and be like, you know, this happened, and it's spun, and it's accessible because everyone in there is a person.
Yeah.
And it's bear in mind, The Boys was also a comic book.
Yeah, it was.
And it's been massively adapted for the show. Like, some people have been pissed, and some people don't give a shit, like me, who hasn't read them. And even if I had read them, I wouldn't care. Like, they swapped the gender of one role, but it works so fucking well. And some things that were just, like, crazy gratuitous in the comics, just cause they've cut out. Like, there is a sexual assault scene in, like, the first episode that has kind of been... The writers looked at what was in the comics, where it was like a 4-on-1 deal, and they were like, that's not necessary. That's pure shock value for the sake of it.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, you know, but what's interesting is then they address it as like a sexual assault in real life at the workplace.
Yeah.
And there's kind of this moment of speaking up. And again, I don't want to spoil too much. That is first episode. It's straight off the bat.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting to watch because of that accessibility, I think.
The thing that I think makes it interesting to me specifically isn't, it's not, yes, the premise is superheroes, but it doesn't feel like you're watching something like about superheroes. They're kind of in the background. It's like you're watching, whether it's like relationships, revenge, that kind of thing, and then superheroes are just kind of dotted in the story, and you're like, oh yeah, they have powers, I remember now.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that guy's shooting lasers out of his eyes.
Yeah.
Sick. Like, at someone's boobs. That's in it. Shooting lasers at a pair of boobs. A pair of boobs. That doesn't feel right.
Cool.
Boobs.
Oh yeah, Max hasn't seen it yet.
Like, I'd be really looking forward to that clearly cool moment. Nice boobs.
You don't get to see them.
Well, look.
No, there's an element in there.
I know. But I also think it's kind of cool on the very other end of the spectrum, where it's just not addressed at all. So it's like, I mean, it is in a way a superhero movie at a stretch, but Scott Pilgrim versus the World, where it's like all this crazy shit happens that is very superhero-y, right?
Yeah.
You know, defeating 5 evil exes. But it's never never once by anyone addressed as that's a weird thing.
Yeah.
And sorry, that really threw me off, Nathan, whatever you sent.
Wait, what did Nathan send? Oh. For those listening and watching. Well, he's been so still this whole time. So, for those of you listening and watching who just thought Nathan was sitting still, his computer crashed. I hope to God that this stays
just
in.
on our screen. Nathan's just sat, like, so we just assumed he was like patiently listening.
Well, the thing is, his camera will still be rolling.
Yeah.
His audio won't. Is that him back?
Hi.
Is that him? Hi, Nathan. It was the fact. Oh, mate.
What happened?
Your camera never turned off, so I was like midway through a conversation, and it saw that you'd messaged the group, and I was like, "Why isn't Nathan?" I was like, "Sorry, Nathan, you've thrown me off there," and it just said my computer crashed, and we just looked up, and you were just sat there like,
We thought you were just being really still.
"Please keep all that in the edit."
I was hoping. I was saying. I hope this stays in. It has to. It's so fucking funny.
I can keep it in. All right. Cool.
We're back.
We're back, boys and girls. So
Scott Pilgrim,
that
right?
is that is what they call the benefits of working away from each other and through this whole shit social distancing stuff that we have to do. That's just the first time 8 episodes that it's cocked up, but that was very funny.
Except for that time that I was completely out of focus for the whole thing.
Yeah, that was completely technical fault and not your fault at all.
I make films.
Yeah, apparently.
So,
I can focus
back
the
to the
camera.
original point. Get back on track
Superheroes.
here. Yes, so you were talking about the boys and
No, you were talking about Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, I'm getting to that point.
Oh, right.
So, for Nathan's sake, because again, we're going to keep all that in the previous edit, it's too funny to cut, but for Nathan's sake, you were talking about the boys and how it's like always addressed about how weird stuff is that's going on. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you count this as a superhero movie, Scott Pilgrim versus the World is where loads of weird stuff happens. It's about him facing 5 evil exes, and he has these crazy powers. There's one bit where he gets like uppercutted into the air and comes down like 2 minutes later. Like, it's ridiculous, but it's never addressed, and I think that's a super cool thing. Like, people are like sarcastic constantly in that film, but not ever about the fact that they've all randomly gained superpowers. It's just never addressed.
Well, the
And I
thing
think
that's
that creates quite a cool thing.
fun about Scott Pilgrim is that it's so weird that it feels like you're watching a comic.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't feel like you're watching a comic book adaptation of something. It feels like this is a comic book that is now a film.
Even the transitions have like stuff, and it has constantly have visual gags that come up on screen. Like, the one that comes to mind is the pee bar when he's doing a pee, and there's like a bar that runs out. It's like classic comic movie stuff, comic book stuff, but it's like so not Marvel level of this is just normal. We don't address it. Yeah, but
Well, I mean,
they still don't address it.
taking it back then to kind of mainstream superhero films like Marvel. Something. I mean, this is a conversation that me and Hannah have had. Is that the superhero film, kind of as we know it already, it's changing. Kind of. We're still getting the classics. But it's a point that she kind of made was that you look at when they did Guardians of the Galaxy, which was kind of like something different and exciting. It's like, hey, this is funny.
Yeah,
it can be funny too.
Like, actually funny as well.
Yeah.
Like, not like the
Iron Man.
Fake
It was
funny
like
shit they've been doing now.
Well, Iron Man, you had moments of humor, like
that's
like
wit.
Most
though.
dramas.
I think there's a difference between wit and comedy.
Yeah, but you've got like Chris Pratt, who is just comically brilliant. His timing is amazing. Like, the guy's so funny they keep his mistakes in. Like, he's great. But kind of from that point onwards, probably from a business point of view, where they've seen how well it's done, you see that coming. You see that kind of type of comedy. Something Hannah's saying, it's like they're copying themselves.
Yeah,
which she likes and doesn't like, because she likes the comedy. It's a humor that she can get behind, but it feels like it's like, okay, well, it's getting old. Like, you've got
everyone does
Guardians,
it as well now.
You've got Thor Ragnarok, which is brilliant, but
again,
when you look at
made
it
by Taika Waititi, that's why it's brilliant.
It's an unfair advantage.
There's the reasons
exactly.
why. There's the reasons why. Like, James Gunn is a great writer, and Chris Pratt is a great comedic performer. Dave Bautista is a great comedic performer, as it turns out. You know, he's a wrestler,
Yeah.
but he's really funny in it. Zoe Saldana's the perfect sort of straight man character for that film. That it has this formula that it's designed to work and to be funny. Again, Bradley Cooper, comedic actor. So it's these deliberate elements to make something funny. Taika Waititi was a comedy writer, director. You know, he made What We Do in the Shadows before he made Thor Ragnarok. So when it's deliberately crafted to be funny, that's when it works. But when it's like, you know, like they do in Star Wars now, where they're just like, we have to be funny for this bit. Because people like the funny.
Yeah.
But
then even with sorry.
That's fine. I was going to say, just to sidetrack slightly.
Oh, fuck.
It's only a quick point.
That's embarrassing.
Star Wars has always been, like, kind of had jokes in it. It's not funny. But I think they've tried too hard to be like, there were jokes in the originals, let's have jokes in this one as well.
Again, the same thing, like, wit versus trying to be comedy.
Yeah.
But kind of looking at Thor Ragnarok, it's very funny. It is almost definitely 100% down to Taika Waititi.
It's such a Taika film. It's got him all over, hasn't it?
Within that, it is kind of the prime example of the problem. In that, we were talking before about characters. I mean, we've talked about it over many of these episodes. Being true to story and being true to character. Thor was never that funny.
No.
He wasn't that character. And in Thor Ragnarok, that is changed.
They revived him, man. He was a character they could have, probably would have killed off. But now he's like, you know, especially if he's going to be integrated with the Guardians, like it looks like he's going to be.
Which could be cool.
He's one of the best characters in the MCU for me. Like, I really love what Chris Hemsworth does with it. And as long as Taika's at the helm, if anything Thor does now, I will watch it because it's Taika, you know.
Me too. But then you look at how, you know, as a business, it's a fantastic decision. You revived a character that people loved, and that was kind of falling away.
Yeah.
But they've drastically changed who the character is. Should you do that? You know?
I guess it depends, you know. Like, because it's superheroes, and as I said at the start, it's all just silly. Nothing matters in superhero world, you know.
True.
There are certain characters within those worlds that you can just go, let's just change him up. There are certain characters you can't, like Iron Man, for example, who has one of the best character arcs in the history of cinema, if you ask me. Just like, purely because he got like 8 films to do it, right? Which is a point I'll come to afterwards.
He could have more, right?
I hope not. But probably money.
6 prequels.
But there are, because it's such a silly genre, full of it's just for fun. Everyone knows that it's just fun, good watching stuff. That's the end goal with it. And I think as long as they do stay a bit true to their original character. Oh, is that an endgame joke that I just heard?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hate you. I hate you.
For those of you listening,
as long as they stay...
he does.
As long as they stay true to a bit of an original part of the character, you know, like that when in Endgame, spoilers, but it's been out a bit now, in Endgame, when Thor has that thing with his mom and stuff, like goes back to his roots, and then he or is that Infinity War?
I think it's Endgame.
And then it is, because that's when they go back in time. And also, I mean, the whole fat Thor thing didn't really vibe with, if I'm honest with you. I thought it was a bit of a dodgy take on depression, but at least they tried it. But again, that's all things that draws back to his original character and how he's changed now, and that's why he's so messed up about it. Which is interesting to see in a film of that type, because as you were saying, and as Nathan said, it's just like, they're kind of just superficial, these films in general. But latter day films, much more, because we've had so many films to get to know these characters in the MCU. it allows for this sort of fleshed out emotional moments that have these great payoffs, you know?
Big time. I agree.
And for sure, you know, it's like they've oversaturated the film market as well. That's obviously the problem I have with them. It's not.
Well, I mean,
nothing to do with the content.
I mean, having not really been a fan of, you know, Marvel, DC, whatever.
Yeah.
And I do see a lot of them. Obviously, there's WandaVision now on TV,
which is really good, by the way.
I've heard
I think
good
you'd
things
like
about
it. You know, really good.
And I feel like Marvel have like a lineup which is gonna last like the entire year or something. They have content going out, whether it's films, TV, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And while I guess it's an oversaturation, but it's also I don't really care, honestly, that they have so much stuff coming out, because one, I think it's great that people get to enjoy like characters and stuff, because
absolutely
at the end of the day, if you're like a fan of Star Wars, you get 3 films within the span of 9 years, and then you wait 20 years, and then you get another 3 films, and then you wait another 20 years. So,
but you know, like I will say, as a big fan of Star Wars, I like didn't go and watch Rise of Skywalker at the cinema until very late because of the Star Wars fatigue. Like,
yeah,
I know that it's so weird to say because I love Star Wars, but I think there is only so much, you know. Like, when the Hobbit movies came out, I was really excited. Like, sure, the first one was good and the other 2 were shit, but like, I was really excited nonetheless because I love Lord of the Rings and I'd waited so long for them, and now they've gone. I'm like, cool, that's fine. Like, that's enough for me. Then the Amazon series will come out in a year or in a couple of years, and I'll watch it, and it's that perfect amount of time between them to make me want to watch them, to give me that hype.
I mean, I think the difference between, say, like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and Marvel is you have so many characters to choose from. Marvel,
I was going to say that. The source materials.
Yeah, and they have like
true.
full arcs. It's not like they're like subplots or anything. They have like their own comics that have been running for years. But then Star Wars,
it's one big story.
It's one interconnected story that mostly with. No, I'm gonna say it. All 3 trilogies are almost separate stories that they've forced to kind of be the same thing. I didn't mean that.
No.
Yeah. Welcome to the show again.
No.
Run it again.
Whereas things, say with like Marvel, I don't know why I'm defending this so much because I don't care that much, but I think it's cool that there is so much. I guess because it's the same as like the Mandalorian. That's a completely like separate thing from the rest of Star Wars. It's kind of like you can get behind that because there is so much.
I took ages to watch the Mandalorian because of Star Wars fatigue, and then I think I tried a couple of times and I didn't vibe with the first episode at all. And then I saw people saying, just get through that first slog because you'll find it a bit boring at first, and I did, and then eventually you'll get really into it. And I did. Like, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good watch because it was cool to, like you say, have a new story. But when I talk about oversaturation, I mean like in the market specifically. So like for me personally, I don't care. Like I could happily keep watching these Marvel movies. That's great. But when it is, and this is what Scorsese's point was, when it is affecting other films and the way that they're distributed, and you know, the likelihood that a film that Scorsese would call cinema is to get in the cinema and to get in eyes on it is a lot less likely now, because of the oversaturation of the Marvel world, of the Star Wars world, and of the comedy reboot shit that we're still living in.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point up until because when I heard that, again, not being a fan of superhero films, I was like, that's just so pretentious.
Yeah.
Like, people enjoy these films. That's what cinema is. Like, surely cinema is entertainment at the end of the day. Like, yeah, okay, you go and watch like films to be challenged and to be stimulated intellectually. But who cares if it's just fun? Like, who cares if it's
Yeah,
just a bit of
exactly.
fun? Like, I don't enjoy it personally, but there are millions of people who do, and you can't really shit on that because at the end of the day, they're going to be good films if this many people are watching them.
Yeah.
So I do get
And-
the point of like there are so many of them, and yeah, it affects distribution. But at the same time, what about when like like there was like a big like film noir, it was all like this kind of dark detective-y, so like that was like the big thing back then. So if you weren't making a film that was like that, you probably weren't going to get distributed. I feel like it's almost just this continuous cycle of this is popular now, it'll move on, they'll still be around, but it won't be as big as it was, and we'll move on to the next thing.
And that's exactly it, because I see what his point was in that he says like he wasn't taken away from any artistry or credibility of those type of films, but he was saying there was a separation between what he calls movies and cinema, which well,
that's valid.
no, but I'm saying I agree with Nathan. I like the thing is that he doesn't really, and I don't want to be like the guy going, we know better than Martin Scorsese, but like the thing that he doesn't really get is exactly what Nathan said. Like he does see that as cinema, but what it actually is it's just films that are popular that have evolved over time. Like it's not, you can differentiate between the two, and I've certainly been that person, especially when I was a uni student. Like there's the difference between films and movies. Actually, I've definitely been that guy. But the realistic thing is just like it's just waves of what's popular. The people that are going like Buster Keaton, that's film. Like that is original quality film.
Wes
it's like
Anderson films.
Sure, but Buster Keaton was like the biggest movie star in the fucking world.
Yeah, that's what was popular at the time. Like,
yeah.
I think what's important as well, and like you say, we're not sat here trying to say we know better than Martin Scorsese.
No.
And we have things like the Oscars essentially saying otherwise, but I don't think it's for the creators of content to decide what's culturally important. It's audiences. It will always be audiences. Even in the Oscars, yes, it's creators talking about it and voting, and actors and people in the Academy, but in that role, they're an audience. Martin Scorsese can say what he wants, but it won't matter at all.
Yeah.
It's not going to change. People, like millions of people, aren't going to go, you know what? He's right. I won't see Black Panther 2. They're going to go.
And there's still objective ways of looking at what's good and what's bad in film. Like that's still a thing. But to sort of call something not cinema is like, I don't think he meant it as pretentious, because especially like if you look at Scorsese's films, he's not a pretentious guy, but it does come off as pretentious. It comes across a bit gatekeepy, even if he didn't mean to, because it's creating this separation between what he calls good films and what he calls not his thing.
Well, that's the thing.
And then he says that they're cinema when really they all are.
It's because I kind of find it's a bit of a strange distinction to make, because again, like we say, the popularity of films, I don't think makes something a film or a movie, if that's the kind of distinction that someone would make. If something's for entertainment purely, that doesn't make it not cinema. Like you guys said, there's story arcs, there's great character development through this whole thing. Why is that less valid than something that's a little bit more high concept, or is written by like one of these auteurs? Like I don't see the difference really.
And I think like this has been a conversation for years and years in film theory. But then finally in like 2010 when Inception came out, when Christopher Nolan came around, it was like, there we go. Now we have finally have the definitive proof that you can make the blockbuster like mega movie of comic book movies. If you want to do Batman, if you want to do just high concept, huge Leonardo DiCaprio movies, or just these very much popcorn cinema movies, but they're still what you could call high art. if you
Yeah.
were a pretentious twat. And obviously, like Spielberg and people like that were of that ilk before, but I think the way that Nolan operates is so like high art, auteur, that it's like he is the one filmmaker that's come along that has just dispelled that entire theory for me of just like, oh look, something can be really good and really popular and really glossy. Like, who cares?
Yeah, I don't think when people say that like superhero films, if you want to take the Martin Scorsese route and be like it's not cinema, what do you categorize the Batman trilogy as? Because it's a superhero film that I would say very much is the classic kind of film. It's not just there to be entertainment. It is there to tell a bit more of a deeper story, if that's the way that you can describe it. So again, what's the distinction between that and then a Marvel film? Just because one was made by Christopher Nolan, who is seen as like on a I don't know what to call him per se. I was going to say like the pinnacle of current filmmakers, but that is how I kind of see him, really.
Yeah, it's absolutely no disrespect to Martin Scorsese. Like, the guy has made some of the best films ever made. He's still doing, like, The Irishman was long, but it was good. So he's still very good. It's just, the thing is, he's just a man of his time. He grew up in that era of cinema, and that's why he says these things. And because he's Scorsese, he has this huge voice that like really upsets people if he says something that they don't agree with.
The thing that I can sympathize with him is that I don't think he is liking the direction that cinema is going in, which is the Netflix route, which he did go down. He did release his film on Netflix. And I think that's something that obviously he's probably had to change his mind about. But I remember there was a time where, maybe it's still going on now, I'm not entirely sure, but the Academy, the Oscars, were like, no Netflix films. Doesn't count.
Yeah.
They still like that.
No, they're not. Because Irishman got nominated and stuff. And then they're like, we have to. Once the big filmmakers started, I'm pretty sure they have. Roma won Best Foreign Film.
Did it?
That's the first, and it was nominated for Best Picture.
Okay.
Roma was nominated for Best Picture and Foreign Film, and won the Foreign Film one. Parasite was the one that got nominated for Foreign Film and Best Picture and won. And I'm sure there's going to be some. My mind's gone blank. I'm trying to think back to previous ones. I don't think there's been a Netflix Best Picture winner yet.
No, not yet.
But I would say soon.
Depends
what gets put out. It's just a distributor at the end of the day.
Exactly.
But very true. Yeah. But it's like that kind of. It's just. Get with the times, and not like telling him like, listen, Marty,
get with the times, old man.
Get with the times. But it's like there's a progression that's happening, whether that's streaming services, whether it's genres, whether it's specific like types of filmmaking or writing, whatever it is. It's constantly evolving, and if you're going to be the person that's trying to hold it back, then you're going to get left behind. So
yeah.
And I'm not saying Martin Scorsese is going to get left behind. That's not going to happen.
I think in seeing as, speaking of getting with the times, we've now reached an hour and 6 minutes.
Wow.
And I think it's probably the right time to kind of do some finishing thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Nathan, some finishing thoughts on superheroes. As the biggest fan in the room. I mean, you're the only person in the room that you're in, so you are the biggest fan in that room.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've made my point clear on how I don't personally like superhero films. The kind of the Marvel ones. Again, I enjoy Batman, The Boys, these kind of like maybe slightly darker or more twisted kind of takes on superhero films and TV shows. But that's just personal taste. Like, I have absolutely nothing against superhero, as a genre. I don't think there's anything particularly bad just because it's popular or a bit silly or something. It's a very valid genre in my opinion. Just because I don't enjoy it doesn't mean that I don't think other people should.
Yeah.
Max, final thoughts?
Sort of like the same thing, but the opposite, right? Like, I love them. When I go to the cinema, or just watch movies in general, or TV, or listen to music, anything. Whenever I consume art, the one thing I want is to feel things. Whether that's I watch a film that is specifically crafted to make you cry and to make you sad. Last night I was on my sofa at like 2 a.m. at the end of Paddington 2, bawling my eyes out. Like,
there's no shame in that.
Happen. No, it's an emotional fucking scene. And sometimes there's films that make you, deliberately crafted to make you angry, like, documentaries like Ava DuVernay's 13th is the one that comes to mind. Like, there's a lot of stuff is just specifically crafted to make you feel a certain way, and Marvel films are specifically crafted to make you feel joy. Superhero movie films are mostly the same. Like, sure, Suicide Squad made me wish I was dead, but
it did its job.
But it did its job.
You're
it's in the title. But it was trying, at the very least, to be, I don't know,
a bit different.
Yeah, it's the worst film I've ever seen, but it was trying to make people feel things. So when people say they loved Joker, I'm like, cool, man. I hated it. But
really?
Here's why you're objectively wrong.
Yeah.
You didn't like Joker.
I really hated it. Yeah, really hated it.
Wow. Okay. Well, Quentin Tarantino liked it, so what does that say about you?
I don't care.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
I say, people can like whatever they want to like. I don't care. But I can say that some things are objectively bad and some things are objectively good. Suicide Squad was objectively bad. Joker was objectively good. I didn't like it. They're different. There are two differences between the two things. But back onto a nicer point about not wanting to die when I'm in the cinema. I just love them. I grew up reading comic books. I grew up wishing I was a superhero, and they make me feel joy. And the ending of Infinity War was so good and made me so excited and just love film. And then I went into Endgame, and the ending was, it was okay halfway through, but the ending is so good. And the click, and I'm like, yes, I don't care if this is low art shit. I do not care, because I'm having such fun. And spoilers, when Captain America gets Thor's hammer, I'm like, fucking yes! I love it. So, who cares? Just let people like things.
I think that, kind of going on a point that you said there just before, kind of something you grow up with. And I think there is, with superhero films, good, bad, like it, don't, there is an element of nostalgia. I think
big time.
I'm probably not the only one who kind of, after watching Spider-Man as kind of someone growing up, you kind of walking along and you just kind of drag your fingers on the wall to see if something sticks. You know what I mean? And it's stupid stuff like that makes you watch it and you feel like, I could be a superhero. And the definition of what that means changes. Yeah. But I think, like you say, it is just bringing happiness into the world. That's a very dark place. And it's stuff that people like, they enjoy it, and it's something fun. And so I think that's a lovely little note, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's very
very
nice.
nice.
Yeah. Alex talking about his sticky fingers.
Oh, you had to ruin it.
Yeah.
Anyway, join us next week.
Yeah, if you like this, if you're watching us on YouTube, hello. I hope you're enjoying our faces. We're very handsome. And if not, if you're listening to us on your podcast provider, thank you for listening to us. We have a YouTube channel. We'd be very appreciated if you'd drop us a subscribe and a like on the video, all that jazz, this shit. And if you are on Spotify, drop us a follow, because all of this helps. We're trying to do something here, so
trying to bring joy.
Listening or watching or whatever. you know, we just love talking shit. So
I'm Batman.
that is an outro.
That's the show.
Bye.